Welcome to the new Cyber Frontier, bringing you the latest news and initiatives that focus on the development of cybersecurity economics. You don't have to be a computer or cybersecurity expert to get plugged in. Your host brings it straightforward, asks the tough questions, and brings the cyber world to a level of understanding for everyone. You can find us on the web at www.newcyberfrontier.com. Now join our host as he introduces the topic for today's new Cyber Frontier.
All right, welcome everybody to the new Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery, and today we have Fausto with us. And your company's name, sir, is
Secberus.
Secberus, right. Yeah, you've got an interesting background, I think, so I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself there, please. And what we're going to talk about today, I'll get to that right after your introduction.
Yeah, Tim, thank you so much for the invite. Super excited to be here with you today.
Yeah.
Started very young. I mean, I went to, after high school, enrolled in school for computer science and liked cybersecurity since day one. And got a job at 19, 20 years old working for a DDoS mitigation company. It was an early startup.
Awesome.
Spent 6-7 years there just protecting the largest banks of the world from anonymous. Back in the mid 2000s, and right there, we after that we got acquired by a bigger company called Akamai. They wanted to really make their security business more robust, and we went from 14 people when I started to 200 plus employees. And just really was my experience there. That was my actual school. Right after that, spent a year at Akamai, and then co-founded a company called Zenedge in LA. And we did a web application firewall. And it was one of the first AI web application firewalls right before this AI madness. And
yeah, the AI madness is right.
After a few years, we raised capital and really increased and generated revenue. Of course, $5 million a year more in revenue. And we didn't last a long time in the market because Oracle saw an opportunity to really acquire us and sell this product and this technology to their customers on their OCI, the big Oracle cloud. And right before that Oracle acquisition, I really saw a problem in cloud security, infrastructure, security and compliance, what we call today governance. And so an opportunity to build a solution tailored for cloud architects to be able to define their business and security strategy.
Yeah.
Apply that across their multi-cloud infrastructure to truly enable DevSecOps. So, founded Secberus a few years ago. Raised over $10 million in capital and now running. And we now have some of the largest customers both in multiple markets today, and everything's going as expected. So we're super excited to be in the market with our solution.
Yeah, you got a real interesting background. I like this software and the development. I know the DevOpsSec or DevOps itself, that was a coined term that just came into play. Has been a catchphrase for a while, just like, zero trust. It seems to be one of those things they coined, and it's everywhere. So everybody's like, what does that really mean sometimes? So you do mainly, software development, right? I mean, these are products, is it a spectrum across all cloud products when it comes to environments like the production, operation, and then the dev environments and things like that? And these types of software actually cover some of those?
Yeah, this is more of a, when a DevOps is hired by a company, right now you see a lot of cloud native applications, and they're cloud native because they're powered by the services of this public cloud providers, right, the CSPs. So because, companies are building a lot of different cloud native applications, they have all of these environments, that production, test, and staging environment, and they need to have the guardrails, what we call the guardrails. So by having those guardrails in place using our solution, we're able to detect if any configuration deviate from a compliance or business requirement and can post a data breach or a misconfiguration risk. So our solution just sits there, some sort of like an eagle eye, just really looking at all the changes that are happening across the cloud.
Mm-hmm.
that allows organizations to say we've enabled DevSecOps, right? So the security in DevOps. So that's where we come in.
Oh, awesome. Well, let's hold our pause right there. We're going to come back after we hear from our commercial break here from our sponsors.
Blockframe technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Okay, welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery, and today we have Fausto. And I'll get it right at the end, probably. And I do apologize, but a lot of times my slang accent usually falls in there, right? So, Secberus. Secberus is the company. Secberus. And you're smiling, so I will get it right sooner or later. And in cloud native communications, or cloud native and cloud support for cloud platforms across the board, and doing you call it more or less a watchdog software. It sounds like that. So it just monitors out there, and it does a lot of so your company actually creates a lot of this elements, so it does compliancy checks for controls and measures across the cloud. So it monitors changes on the cloud, and can give alerts or reports, I'm assuming, for certain specifics. So that way you understand change in cybersecurity. It's more like, I always refer to it as a watchdog or a guard dog, right? A lot of these elements. And of course, some of this software was bought up by Oracle, their platforms for cloud support and cloud provisioning. So what is it in your company do you think is probably, I know cloud has been moving in, and they give statistics like in the next 5 years, 50% of all information will more than likely be in the cloud. So, I mean, as in your experience in the last, let's say, 2 decades or 15 years or so, what do you see trending, and what is one of the biggest issues with moving to cloud?
So I think what's trending continues to be cloud migration and building cloud applications, and it's because there is a need for velocity, right? So enterprises have to build products and take it to market as fast as they can to compete within their own industries.
Yeah.
You do see this velocity happening, and what's trending is business velocity. So I think some of the challenges these companies are having is they don't have any security control over what happens under the hood. So the so-called shadow IT, like what's happening, how do we know that these configurations and these applications are being deployed in a secure way, right? That hygiene, right? Because we moved away from that tradition of change control management where you can actually have a stopgap if something doesn't pass a certain test. And it's not a luxury cloud has, and organizations are not mature enough to actually have that. So we do see that, and what happens is you need to, one of the things trending at the enterprise is these enterprise solutions to solve those problems. They have to be very simple to deploy and to use, right? Mm-hmm. Just because there's so much velocity going. So we do see solutions in the security governance, cybersecurity space being more simple to adopt and to implement. Solutions that are not generating a lot of noise, because the noise is just fatigues these engineers, and we do see cloud continue to trend in velocity. So a combination of that is, how can you deploy solutions that are at the speed of the business so we can continue actually doing this. So really what's going on out there.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that everything in AWS seems to be taking the bigger market portion outside of like Azores or the Google platforms, and implementing the cloud native product into a lot of what they're doing. So, and I don't know, it, To me, it sounds like, when you say, we always state that, the cloud is just someone else's computer, right? You've heard that before, right? So, yeah. So, I mean, and with security kind of looking like as it trends, do you see any perspective factors that would be shortfalls as far as the maturity levels of some of these cloud platforms?
I think one of the biggest challenges is enterprises are multi-cloud, right? So because we're multi-cloud and they are deploying in multi-cloud, especially if you have large corporations that are building everything in AWS, just to give an example. But they do an acquisition of a company that's building everything in Google Cloud. Now you immediately are multi-cloud. So the parity between clouds are completely different. They're not just the same, and you need different skill sets for different cloud providers because we do different data structures. So we do see that companies have to adopt a framework that allows them to continue to get mature across whatever provider they use. So we're starting to see companies understanding that first, and working towards a more mature model. But this is an ongoing battle right now that's happening in the industry.
And what is the timeline, you think? I mean, is there any short-term things that we think we're going to get to as far as maturity level goes for cloud platforms?
I think the cloud itself are very stable, right? So they are very mature. But I think what we need to see, and it's happening now, is an understanding of CISOs of where they have to be per cloud provider to be mature within themselves. So I think we've passed cloud maturity for the provider, and now we need to see cloud maturity for the user, for the enterprise, right? So that's where we are, and I do believe in the next few years we're going to see enterprise essentially reaching that maturity level.
Yeah, that's interesting because at organizational levels or enterprise levels for an organization or corporation, yeah, it looks like there's shortfalls there, having to match up with the way the trend of cloud, everyone's pushing to the cloud because of agile processes. And then, like you said, the speed of business, the objectives, the goals, trying to trend that into, faster turnarounds and to market values, which can be the difference between success or failure in a lot of corporations. In services, I could see how organizations could benefit from it and then also fail if they don't understand what's happening and grab a hold of it and figure out what their objectives are going to be to move them however they are, trend there. It was interesting because Polaroid knew that the digital age was coming, and they never wanted to go move forward. They stayed with printing, and Polaroid went under because they never grasped the concept that we were going to go to such a thing as digital age and be able to capture pictures the way we do now. So, I mean, it's a blatant example of with cloud platforms, if it's trending in the same direction and it picks up the same way, which it sounds like it is. I mean, it sounds like companies will rise and fall, and migrate, and you'll start seeing the trends of that. To the end user's perspective, I mean, how do you see it trending? It sounds to me like, when they decided to, instead of put the, analog signal through the digital plug, turn it around and put the digital through the digital plug, basically, and how networking patterns changed and how voice over IP became more prominent, and how the ability to pick up packets and use the digital age to transition us out of analog type of methods. I know that the X-rays went from analog to the PAX digital consumption, which now we get, we can spread those across major networks. That means that everybody can get, better medical care closer to home, and in different countries that did not have that privilege now are seeing trends into that. So definitely technology being a plus when it comes to a lot of things in life for comforts and those types of things, but also we can see that we can have some impact that's negative as well. So as the end user, what do you see, trending for security measures, implications? We talk about two-factor authentication these days. How does the software mechanism with allocation to like API use and just the agile method, how do you see that implying to it?
Yeah, I think one of the big concepts we like to talk about is risk federation, like federation risk management, because I think risk as a whole is a responsibility of everyone in the enterprise, right? I think the times of blaming security or blaming IT or blaming the CISO or blaming the CEO is not going to get us anywhere in an organization or an enterprise. So I think companies have to look at risk in a way that everyone needs to contribute to mitigating that risk, right? From the top, setting the strategy, to the engineers trying to remediate the risk that they introduce to the company or to the infrastructure, you know, mistakenly or not. So I think one of the big things is really understanding that as a core, and then our solution as a core has that concept and those features to build a federated risk management, right? Where you can have thousands of engineers, and now the risk pie is split between all of the engineers based on what they introduce to the infrastructure. So I think if you look at security from back in the day, traditionally everything goes to one bucket, and that bucket everyone has to investigate.
Yeah.
But we're seeing that that is not a method that works because you're going to miss something 100%,
Yeah.
right? How do you solve that, right? So the way we think about solving that is federating that risk across everyone. Because now that you have that, you can now build a model that the remediation and risk management is reduced over time at an enterprise. So, that's our main core value prop when it comes to that. And I do see enterprises starting to adopt that mentality.
Yeah. And the concept of zero trust, the government has implied this across the board, and it looks like they're taking a stance where we're phasing into it. Do you see in your experience, do you see corporations having an issue with this to trend towards what they need to for zero trust? And do you think zero trust is the answer to really reducing and access control measures and protecting data?
Yeah, I think zero trust is definitely one of the answers to solving the problem, right? And we do adopt it within our technology as well as a solution to our customers. But I think companies are now starting to move from zero trust as a buzzword or as a methodology to an actual implementation, right?
Yeah.
Not everything that says zero trust is zero trust. So I think now we need to start looking a little more ahead of what we read and actually start implementing those principles in the company. But I do believe it's one of the main answers actually to get there, and has to be part of every CISO strategy.
Do you think it impacts the development lifecycle for software products? Or can be?
Well, I think impact, depending on how zero trust is deployed in a way that can scale, right? I think if you deploy a zero trust solution that could scale
Yeah.
from a federation perspective or how the solution is deployed, then it won't. If it's a true stopgap and blocks speed, then it's not going to work, right?
Yeah.
So how can we scale? How can we get implemented? How can we get adopted fast? And that's what new evaluation systems have to be.
Yeah, adaptability is the key, right? So everything, it has to be adaptable and flexible to the needs of the enterprise or in the environment. Clouds knows as well as any other system implementations, and Clouds know doesn't get out of it either. So it has to be flexible, it has to be agile, and I could see companies. I mean, like AWS is trending pretty fast, and they have a pretty good set of individuals that they consistently keep on new innovations and things of that nature. So I've had the chance on some insight for some of that. So it sounds interesting as adaptability for zero trust into the cloud. So it sounds like as companies trend into the cloud, it may source them well to move into the cloud, and with this zero trust being complementary to being able to protect data. So, do you see any other factors in the trend of the industry at this point when we move into the cloud? And do you think it's moving faster? Is there any other trends, like with security perspective wise, that could be applied here?
Yeah, I mean it's moving very very fast. I think migrations in the cloud native build outs are not being stopped. I think we see a lot of infrastructure as code build outs, right? So the whole shift left approach in the DevOps cycle, right? So we do see companies adopting that infrastructure as code, and it's one of the things that, when you protect an organization, you gotta assess every single phase of that cycle, whether from like coding, building, committing, running an operations, the whole code to cloud or the whole supply chain. There's a few names for it, but everything has to be assessed by a solution that can scale. So we do see a lot of companies adopting DevOps principles.
Mm-hmm.
Now we need to make sure that the solutions to secure those principles are up to par, right? So it's kind of a race. You want to go fast, but you want to have solutions that can also go fast, and you can get adapted and customized to your requirements, right? So I think the days of products being black and white out of the box, they don't work anymore. Now we need to look at solutions that are completely adaptable to the organization's requirements and to the organization's landscape in a way.
Yeah, seems like their own flavor of depending on whatever distribution, just like the Linux, the Unix versions that came out in the 70s, 80s. So it sounds like they're trending towards that. So okay, so we're gonna take a short break here, and we're gonna hear from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Blockframe technology offers next-generation blockchain-managed trust and security. Unique non-fungible tokens are used to secure software bills of materials to provide data quality and security for every transaction in your supply chain. Deploy advanced peer-to-peer product security, scale zero trust capability to millions of IoT devices, allow vendor tracking and accountability, and rapidly reset from compromise. Unchangeable, time-sequenced blockchain data provides next-generation security using machine learning trust algorithms and audit analytics. Start securing your supply chain today by contacting Blockframe at www.blockframetech.com.
Okay, welcome back to New Cyber Frontier. I'm your host, Tim Montgomery, and today we're speaking with Fausto.
Yes.
I got it. And about cloud products, cloud services, and the cloud platform. Certainly your company has done a lot of work with helping support security control measures and implemented into the cloud. And it sounds like there's more than one company there, and you've got a great history of it. So it's great to talk with you about it. And we were referring back to the nature of cloud and the trending of, at an organizational level, enterprise level, of just how fast that might be moving, what that looks like as far as security postures for cloud service production or platforms within a corporation. And what is consistently, what are the CISOs out there that you see or have heard from through the trending of this? Do you see there's a large learning curve to the C-suite, and are they taking this idea serious? Because I know we refer back to just how fast, agile that business objectives are speeding up. So I know that if you don't get to market, that seems to be one of the downfalls of some of the companies.
Yeah, we definitely we've been very very lucky in a way where the CISOs that are our customers are really understanding the problem and what they need, right? But we do see CISOs out there that we've talked to that are understanding that today's solutions are not up to speed with what's going on in the enterprise and what's going on the business side, right? So, and they're trying their best to really find those solutions that can adapt to the velocity, right? So, and it starts with how they're built, their team and structured, right? So when you look at cloud, I think the first thing is having a really good cloud security architecture group that understands governance, understands compliance, understands technology, understands how this building. And instead of getting the tool and deploying it to the, have the engineer just turn this on and make sure everything is secure, they're looking at this top-down approach first, which is strategy, then close the gap to risk remediation. So we are seeing that change, but we've been educating the market for a few years now on really starting to and now we're starting to see that shift, right? In the space.
Yeah, and you were talking a little bit about training there, and the fact that you have multi-platforms, multi-clouds, and support of that, and that was one of the big triggers that now we're looking for the skill set. Do you see trends and which trends do you see as far as training goes in the platforms for cloud?
I think one of the big things is we are seeing a lot of training around just cloud security architecture, right? And understand how to create and how to build a LAN infrastructure that is secure across the board, right? So, there's a lot of investment in cloud security architecture into the future just because there's not a lot of skill set around that, that title, responsibility, or role, or however you want to call it. So we are seeing companies that are just really investing in that area, right? And then now we've seen products built for those roles is one of the biggest trends.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the cloud architectural role has not really stuck out so much as this has trended in information into the cloud platforms, and now it seems like there's an uphill climb to find skill sets, and I think AWS it's just one I keep repeating, but Azures is just as well as Google's platforms work well, and IBM. So they all of them look like that they're struggling to just to keep up with skill, learning and teaching certain skill sets. So they've had to adapt quite a bit to get at least the learning methods out there fast enough. I also see that trending in universities. So I mean, you can get 1 year, 2 year degrees, but what we normally have is cloud product or cloud platform classes that I do teach some of those things. Usually they don't come very often. And usually it's a one-off that they try to teach for cloud. I suspect that it will trend more into the curriculum for IT degrees in universities. So, and you'll probably get to see that, as you are the owner and co-founder for the company, and I'm sure you're probably not going to stop there. There'll probably be other companies that you come up with, and you'll start to see as you hire, these types of engineers, that their degree paths will start to coincide with, as the trend in the marketplace changes. So, and universities can always be a step behind as they try to gain on new technologies and correspond. In your company, do you, as far as learning or teaching, the provisions that your company does for teaching your employees and things like that, I'm sure it coincides. Have you ever had university come to you and ask for curriculums, things of that nature, or how does that, fit into the program of the trend for cloud?
For our employees, well, I think one of the things is we do a combination, right? We have employees and engineers that come directly from school,
sure,
right? Out of college, software development, cybersecurity, across the board.
Yeah, usually all kinds of, right? You get all kinds of types and things of that nature. So,
and then once they come in and they're on board as part of Secberus, we do support the continuous education across the industry, right? So, either a cybersecurity class or information security courses, compliance, software engineering, just across the board is something that we always continue to push. And not formal education kind of back to university, but just really new trends that are coming out, specifically for cloud providers or there's one that we have a really good relationship and partnership with, which is Cloud Security Alliance.
Oh yeah,
and is really one of our main partner sponsors, and we do a lot of education with them.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, Cloud Security Alliance is certainly on the forefront of course, cloud security. So there's no doubt. It's a good association. And then, I've seen it also trend into the government some and pick up as far as the government usually doesn't like open source type of things as well, but we've seen to be able to make good habit of certain cloud products, and they're trending towards teaching, and that blends in with universities and skill sets and the requirements, and so it's always unique to see how these things start to trend with the idea that if we're moving into the cloud faster than we expected, how that's going to keep up with the skill set. And sometimes that also creates lags in the probability of moving towards a cloud platform faster. And then with the idea of, business objectives moving faster ratios to make it to market because of the ability to do such rapid measures, then that applies also. So, yeah, I guess the trend is moving as fast as it's going to go. And I almost say that I see it kind of lagging at certain levels, but still the cloud's still moving though. So
yeah, that is correct.
So we're gonna almost wrap it up here. It's good talking to you. Is there anything else you want to say for your company, for yourself, about cloud native?
I think one of the big things is one of the highly innovative part of our technology. We are introducing this concept of a configuration data lake, right? So we really learned that every company just needs to understand to see the data, assess the data, and the data set means all the cloud configuration that they have across the board. So we really took this data lake, data warehouse concept, right? So all of our customers' data really is stored in this centralized repository of real-time assessment, right? So our customers can come in and understand, look at the data, and explore the data, remediate kind of the data set, and then be able to federate that across the board. Right? So it's always one of the things that I like to end with, and when they think about the Secberus platform, they think about configuration, data lake, and everything on top of that.
Okay. Yeah, no doubt. I mean, big data, you hear those words. So certainly we're collecting data at ratios that we've never seen before. Artificial intelligence is playing roles in being able to use the data for other factors. Also, the chat bots are starting to play roles into service-related industries for support using data as well. So, yeah, definitely understand that cloud's a big part of that as well, the platform that you're using. So, like I said, it was good talking to you.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much for the invite.
Yeah, no doubt. See if we can have you back sometime later and see how things are going with you then. So, anyway, this is it for us, New Cyber Frontier. We hope you enjoyed listening, and we'll see you next round. Till then.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of New Cyber Frontier. Remember to get involved. Often we think that someone else will handle privacy and security in the virtual world, but you are the only one